Hi and welcome to Debunk File. My name is Sep and today we're going to solve the mystery of the first meme. In our day-to-day lives, I think I speak for many when I say that dumb memes really are something we spend way too much time looking at. In the modern era of the internet, they're the most common and widespread sources of comedy, and by this point, all of us that have seen the internet know what one is. In fact, memes have been such a part of us that the very first video we ever created had to do with figuring out multiple things behind a certain yellow creature.
It's the freak phone, and here's the party freak, Freddy Freaker.
With all of this considered, a question that I don't see asked quite enough is, well, where did it all begin? As soon as I asked myself this question, my brain was flooded with possibilities, and that realization only made it more interesting. The fact that I truly did not know the answer at all. You'd think that such a popular staple, especially one that takes its basis from the internet, would have a clearly documented origin, but this is not the case at all. Instead, we had to take a journey, and the journey itself was full of more twists and turns than you can possibly imagine. Some are ultra famous memes that we all know and love, and some are memes that you've perhaps never even seen before. Regardless, tonight we are going to attempt to figure out what the first meme ever was. Before we even get into the true dive that is finding the first meme, it's important to go over what a meme really is. The Oxford Dictionary describes a meme as an element of a culture or system of behavior that may be considered to be passed from one individual to another by non-genetic means, especially imitation. The way it's described off the surface seems to make enough sense, but in reality it's quite outdated in terms of our modern understanding of the term. In the context of their definition, technically God and religion as a whole would be a meme, as that is an element of a culture that is passed on and succumbs to imitation often. So because of that, we decided to use a definition of our own. In this video, a meme will be described as a viral image, video, or text spread exclusively through the internet. It is not to say that cultural images passed down through history still don't count as memes. We'll get to some of those too, but tonight specifically, we are looking for the first modern style meme. With all this talk about memes, it's time to finally get into the mystery of what the first one actually was, which differs on who you ask. There are multiple contenders that hold the title of the first meme to many, but one I wanted to quickly highlight would have to be the ultra famous meme from the Star Wars franchise. Now, while I know not many people genuinely consider this the very first meme, it's still a very early one, and more importantly is an extreme important pit stop in the sheer fact that according to my research, it's one of the earliest examples of a straight up image reaction meme, which is one of the most common forms of memes today. By that I mean the fact that it'd just be this image reacting to something being said on a forum, board, or email, which is a staple seen everywhere today. Its look is also pretty important too, as it is a very early example of the impact font being featured in a meme. Now, one of the difficulties in this search lies with the fact that a select few of the memes don't have a designated exact start date, since that is nearly impossible to find. But it is very clear that this one began in the very early 2000s. I say this because of 2002, the meme had already made its way to Fark, which was a very popular user-driven news/discussion hub, which would suggest that the meme had already been brewing for a little while before that. As for the meme itself, it's simple in nature. It basically revolves around you finding out about some sort of bait or trap, and then using the reaction image that, well, states the obvious.
It's a trap!
So, while it isn't the first meme, I think it's a very appropriate start to our journey for the reasons stated earlier, but of course, there are still more memes to get to, so let's keep moving on. For our next stop, we have our first meme that is simply a dance. This is the Hamster Dance, and it seems to be from all the way back in 1998. The point of this meme is also incredibly simple. It's just a dancing pixelated hamster with the song Whistle Stop playing sped up. It absolutely blew up and was spread through tons and tons of emails at the time, eventually becoming an internet-wide phenomenon. While the meme isn't nearly as prevalent today as it was then, the sped up rendition of the song is still something I see pretty often to this day. Despite its waning popularity in recent years, it's still a very interesting stop in our search for the very first. But of course, it does go farther back than this too, so let's keep going. Now with these next two memes, it's kinda difficult to truly decide which one came first due to a specific complication, so we're gonna talk about them both at the same time. The first meme to be discussed here is the CGI Baby, and among internet discussions, I actually see this one being considered the very first meme quite often. That's right, another meme that involves something dancing. This CGI model was created in 1996 and it was instantly insanely popular, and it is also very often cited as being the very first meme there ever was on the internet. Something about a weird dancing CGI baby resonated with the increasingly random humor trend that was developing itself in the mid to late 90s. The baby was featured heavily in the TV show Ally McBeal and found more success on the early internet. Paired with Hooked on a Feelin', it was emailed to nearly everyone with an email address, which also served as its main form of spreading. This baby has made appearances in commercials, the news, and in references in pretty much everything. It's one of the defining trends in media in the late 90s, and is one that has truly stood the test of time all these years later. However, due to what we stated earlier, there is another meme that may or may not predate this one. In a way, it predates it by 5 years, but in another way, it doesn't even predate it at all. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's get into the meme first. The meme that is next up to bat is the also famous "All your base are belong to us," which is a mistranslated line from the video game Zero Wing. Basically, a lot of older video games would be horribly mistranslated from their original language to English when ported over to the UK and the United States, and this meme just happens to be the most infamous example of this. The video of the character uttering the now iconic phrase started popping up everywhere in late 1998 and early 1999. The meme isn't used as much today as it was back then, but it's still fondly remembered today and has left its mark on internet history. Due to the two dates stated here, it's hard to determine whether or not this meme is actually older than the CGI Baby. Yes, technically All Your Base or Belong to Us existed before the video of the dancing baby, but the actual act of making fun of the severely broken English didn't start until about 7 years after Zero Wing's release. So really, it truly all depends on what the individual thinks. Does the content being around longer mean that it's first, or is the impact what's really important? In my opinion, I'd say that when the content in question actually became a meme is the most important part, meaning I'd give the nod to the dancing baby, but this is still definitely something that could go either way depending on the individual. While the two before are a matter of decision, believe it or not, there are still memes that predate them both, despite their common titles as being some of the first. One of my really early and obscure examples I found during my research is a meme known simply as Eternal September. Originating in 1993, this meme is so old that it actually comes before a time when the World Wide Web was the internet's primary communication method. You see, in the ancient days of the internet, there were multiple companies that gave access to the internet since it was all so new. Today, we of course all use the World Wide Web, but it wasn't always like that. There were competitors. One of these competitors was known as Usenet, and in late 1993 it was surging in popularity. Due to the previously community-like feel of Usenet, somebody by the name of Dave Fisher stated that September 1993 will go down in net history as the September that never ended, clearly showing his not-so-positive opinions at the continued growth of Usenet. This term of Eternal September absolutely exploded after it was said, and soon enough nearly everybody was saying it, whether to be funny or in actual seriousness. Of course, Usenet would eventually fade out in favor of the World Wide Web, which expanded internet popularity to levels never even considered possible before. And as a result, it truly does look like the Eternal September never ended. Eternal September was definitely a meme I was never aware of until researching this video, and while at first glance, Something obscure like this may seem like it could be the first, but we were still able to find some more that predated it even more. In 1990, also coming from Usenet, an internet law was established, being dubbed as Godwin's Law. This law states that, as an internet discussion grows longer, the probability of a comparison involving Nazis or Hitler approaches. As you can see, it basically revolves around the sheer amount of Hitler/Nazi comparisons there are out there on the web, and it shows that the longer a conversation gets, the higher the chance gets. This can't technically be proven without a shadow of a doubt, but it definitely seems to come with some merit if you ask me. I mean, even in a mundane internet fight over grammar, you'll hear someone being called a grammar Nazi. It's a weird, almost humorous internet law that was spread absolutely everywhere on Usenet when it was around, and is still being spread around to this day. For a while we were sitting on this meme being the very first modern one, and that's how we thought it would all end. Something from the dawn of the internet that is still famous today seems like the perfect conclusion to this tale. I truly didn't even think it was possible to go further back than this, but we found one more. Our journey ends at Leetspeak, a meme so old it predates the World Wide Web entirely. This meme first began on bulletin board systems, or BBS for short. These in a nutshell were a pretty primitive form of the internet, and it still involved a lot of things that we do today, such as reading news, uploading and downloading data, and messaging users in public message boards. Of course, some BBSs focused on illegal activities, and combined with the desire to speak for users deemed as elite to speak to each other, Leetspeak came into play. Basically, Leetspeak is a form of cipher that replaces certain words with numbers. While this sounds complex, and some forms of Leetspeak were complex, lots of them were also incredibly simple, and are so famous you see them every single day without even realizing it. Back in the 1980s when it began, it was usually used to talk about the topics that were not allowed on boards. An example of this would be spelling prawn instead of using, well, you know. Of course, not every single usage of Leetspeak was that simple, and there were legitimately complex forms of it that could not be deciphered so easily. But what started as a legitimate way of working around the internet eventually began to devolve, or evolve depending on how you look at it. What happened in the 1980s already qualified as a meme, since certain phrases were spread absolutely everywhere to take advantage of the rules online, but it eventually got into the hands of gamers, and became used as jokes everywhere, in ways that I'm guaranteeing you have seen before. The ultra-famous phrase of noob is an example of Leetspeak, and with the story complete, at least for now, it appears we have found the very first modern meme. Although we determined what quite possibly is the world's first internet meme, it'd be impossible to overlook and not quickly mention some historical memes. In a sense, a historical meme is something that predates the modern understanding of the word meme, but yet even after all this time, it could be considered meme-esque. One that has recently been gaining steam is a cartoon from 1921, which looks eerily similar to the memes that are seen all over today, which in turn made it go a little viral recently. It's old, sure, but it doesn't have the influence like Kilroy. Undoubtedly, the biggest meme that predates the internet is Kilroy.
Kilroy was an American military sign that originated in World War I, which was based off of the Australian Army's "Foo Was Here" cartoon.
Kilroy was later turned into his own well-known cartoon, and eventually, and most famously, was used extensively by American and Allied forces in World War II. American GIs would mark towns they freed and left behind, with Kilroy accompanied by the words, "Kilroy was here," symbolizing to other American soldiers that their fellow troops had already cleaned out and captured the town. It was and still is iconic, defining a generation and influencing imitation, which ironically is the definition of a meme. So at the end of the day, a meme is really up for interpretation. Tonight we took a truly fascinating journey that wound up taking us through not just the evolution of memes, but really the evolution of the internet as a whole. We saw different types of memes, we saw obscure memes, and we saw memes that are still relevant all these years later. Beyond the internet, if Kilroy is the first, then memes have been going strong for over 100 years. If he isn't the first in a historical sense, which I'm willing to bet is doubtful, then who knows how long memes have really been going on. 30 plus years in, and it feels like we've barely scratched the surface of what stupid things make us laugh on the internet. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to follow all of our social medias for updates and exclusive content, all linked in the description. We would also love you guys to consider joining our Patreon, Debunk Plus. We just did a podcast on there. For only $1 a month, you get access to everything, and it's great. We have a lot of fun on there, so make sure to go check it out. And of course, make sure to like this video, share this with your friends, and subscribe. As always, my name is Sep from Debunk File. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.